We're talking to William McCarthy, singer, songwriter, artist, author, former lead singer of US indie rock band Augustine's from Brooklyn, New York.
Yes,
Um, William, where are you right now?
I'm in New York City.
Are you in your apartment?
Yeah, I'm in the downstairs of my apartment. I have a small little basement here.
Okay. So what was the main impact on your daily routine that has Corona right now? What would you do at the moment when we have the Corona crisis?
That's a great question, man. I mean, it's funny. I'm actually very busy. uh, I'm busy, and I think we're all very busy. I keep doing songs and recording and projects, and I have a Patreon community that I'm constantly doing art for, and I write stories every week, and I have a podcast, and I have a video series, and I perform. So it, it's strange for musicians because I think it's not something that we don't know how to do, being inside. But it's also there's such a conflict happening, like mentally, when we're looking at the media and so on. So it's kind of trying to save space for ourselves, right? Mentally, because it's so much going on.
Okay. Um, did you have to change tour dates or something because of the
Yeah,
crisis?
I don't think change. I think I had to cancel. I was supposed to be in Ireland right now.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I had a tour of Ireland, and I was going to go to Scotland and England as well. So that got canceled, unfortunately.
Okay, so a lot of artists do broadcast from home, do home concerts, their Instagram stories, and so on. And so that's also your daily home office work, right?
Yeah, well, I was very. It's also it's a little bit difficult, I think, for musicians, right? Because we have to let go of our ego a little bit because it doesn't sound good coming through a laptop, does it? It's so I think I didn't realize that it would help people as much as it has, and not just me, but I think artists, mostly like musicians, actually, like it really seems to be helping. I know that uh, other like celebrities and actors, I feel like there's a bit of fatigue with that. It all seems a little absurd now, right? Like the sports and the salaries that like footballers or baseball players get, uh, the tabloids in the media, that stuff all just seems a little bit silly now. So I was very concerned that I didn't want to join that strangeness, and but I do see it. I'm starting to realize now. I think there's a possibility to make people happy.
Okay. I remember you once said in a interview, let me quote it. Um, You once said in an interview, essentially, art saved us from a very difficult time and it led us the way and is still leading. Do you remember that? Do you think? Do you think art is so very important right now, not just for you, for all the other people?
Yes, Nico. I think we're in a time right now that uh, at least music, I think film on some level, has been really devalued. And I think we're in a period of time where big tech, Silicon Valley, technological and digital advancements or platforms or apps or streaming, this has really caused a devaluation of creatives. And the message has really been that we should get likes and get views and get plays And I had a really great talk with a friend of mine yesterday. We couldn't do the interview because I wanted to go cheer him up. But he's a motorcycle mechanic, and he has spent his whole life dedicating his time to pure love and an analog care for these old vehicles and keeping them as pure as possible, even when they're 50 years old, you know. And he's going through this experience where we're in a Western first world country, and there's so much money going around in New York City that people kind of buy these things sort of like trophies, and they don't really ride them that much. And he's feeling really empty. And he's considering going online and doing sort of like tutorials or to talk about, and he feels really strange about it. And I told him musicians are going through the same thing. It's, we don't know when this will change. And I think we're all trying to find a balance in our equilibrium with the digital world. And it has changed. It has largely changed the way musicians live. I think now, at least in America, I've been told that like rock and roll clubs, they want to see your Spotify numbers before they will accept a show from you. And, you know, is it even possible now to not have a mobile phone? Is it possible just to be a musician? And this was the discussion I had with this mechanic, and it's just, the world's changing, man.
Mm-hmm. I remember you're not so much politic, but I remember a post on Instagram. You're not the biggest fan of President Trump, aren't you?
No, sir.
How do you evaluate the management skills of your president?
Oh, this is the, I think maybe World War II was, and the Depression was a worse time. I think the Vietnam era was obviously a very painful time in the country, but this is the lowest I've ever seen my country at, and we have the worst leader. So this is the most stress that we've been under, and this is the weakest person we've ever had in office. So, I mean, you know, I like being a musician because in many ways people don't completely take a musician's, you know, do people really care what Keith Richards thinks about, you know? So you can kind of say what you want, but the truth is that most politicians to me look like wealthy white people. And that doesn't resonate with me. And I think that we're in an age where that's not resonating with very many people anymore. We've still not had a female president. We have not had any ethnicities in office, but we miss Obama badly for this reason. We're in a situation where a strange social platform called Facebook is altering our elections, and that people are staying in these sort of bubbles, or these little worlds, a right world, a left world, a left world, a right world. And because of big tech, anybody can sponsor a post and promote themselves on these platforms. And I was very surprised. Like my house here, my landlord, he's being very cool. He's letting me pay half of my rent right now because it's hard. I think the telephone companies are being understanding for the moment. There's a stimulus package happening so that people don't, at the very least, they can buy food. But for example, I have 50,000 followers on Facebook. But when I post something, it goes to 1,000. And the only way I can get to my base or my community or the people that care about what I'm doing is to pay Zuckerberg and Facebook. And this is completely unethical. I think in a time of crisis, which this is the biggest crisis we've ever seen, in my neighborhood in Brooklyn, there's 150 sick people in this neighborhood. So this is a crisis, and the biggest one that we're probably going to see in our lifetime, knock on wood. But, now's the time to let people get the word out, whether it's philanthropic or charity or just trying to be there for people. And I think that what's so difficult about why I'm so angry at Facebook right now is that we worked hard and we earned those fans very fairly because of our work. And then they've been sort of taken and held hostage. And the only way to actually have our voices be visible is through money. And I mean, I wouldn't call this the great plague or influenza or the Spanish flu. Hopefully it never gets that far, but it's the closest thing we've ever seen something like this. And it's just, I think it's unethical to not let people to obstruct their voices from their base right now. It's not right.
New York City has been hit very hard. And I think it's been hit harder than other cities. Can you tell why, maybe?
I think because New York City is a major port, and while this happened, my theory, I'm a singer, so I'm not an expert, but I think that New York is on the water, and it is the gateway to the East. So we're not far from, when we go down, we're South America, the Caribbean. When we go up, we're Nova Scotia, Canada. We go over, there's Iceland, and then we start hitting Britain, and then all of the European Union, then Africa. It's right there. On the other side, we have the Pacific, and we have, we go down, we have Australia, and we have Asia. And I just think that for some reason, the way, when you go back just 5-6 weeks ago, the message very clearly from our politicians was, we were afraid of racism at the time. So our politicians were saying, go to Chinatown, get out, go shopping, don't let this stop you. And they were doing essentially the same thing that they did when I was here for 9/11. They were saying, go out, don't let the economy slow down, spend. And that was not good information. They should have waited until they had a better understanding of something like this. So my theory is geographically New York and Los Angeles, we are sort of I would call them like the bookends of the country. Seattle is another one, a major port. And we're going to get, we've been hit very badly. And I just think that our politicians have not done, our leaders have not led, and people ethically, they don't have our interests properly in the right place. I think that capitalism's a very strange thing. It lifts people out of poverty. It can offer, I've seen entire streets that are Vietnamese, which is beautiful. I've seen entire districts that are Mexican, which is beautiful. And there is a diaspora. So in New York City, a lot of people in Mexico are from Puebla. And somebody must have come here in the 70s or the 80s, and their cousin came, and it's like Turkey and Germany. And it's beautiful to see people have this opportunity. But the unfortunate side of that is that there becomes a vibration, a tone, an attitude, especially in this city, that you have to step on people's heads to survive. You have to be very tenacious. You have to have money in the bank to simply live. So that behavior really only begets more savage behavior. We have hip hop stars counting money. Life ain't nothing but bitches and money. That's overt toxic capitalism, and that's misogyny. But that's the number one music in the world right now. And while if you look at this completely capitalist birth of people that didn't have anything, making music, trying to get the American dream from a disadvantaged place, that's an empowering thing. But it seems like there's something missing morally, where we don't have the big brothers or the fathers. It's like a fatherless country. And where we don't have these elders saying, hey guys, I understand you're angry, and but this these guns and this NWA and Suge Knight and all this stuff that was going on in the 90s and Tupac, this is bad for us. Wearing gold, I understand that it's status, that I wasn't given anything. I'm going to wear this to show you that I have value. I understand that, but I also think that we've all in the Western world gotten very, very carried away.
Not only in New York, but all over the United States, due to the Corona-Krise, a lot of people are unemployed. You re-released a song, The Ballad of the Unemployed. When did you write that song originally? It's an older song.
You know, it's funny, man. It's funny with interviews because sometimes I try to be as fearless as possible and just speak. And I actually was speaking in an interview recently, and it admitted something. And I didn't realize that I had said it, and it was very honest, and it was a little uncomfortable for me, but it's the truth. Almost 2 years ago now, a friend of my band and a friend of myself, a guy named Scott Hutchinson from a band called Frightened Rabbit, he committed suicide. And I knew him, and I also went on tour with him for 5 weeks, and so we all got to know each other. And when this happened, I was so obsessed with surviving that I was playing concerts constantly. I was constantly on an airplane, and I was going all over the world. I was in, Switzerland and Europe and all over America and Canada and Britain and so on. And when he passed away, I really, I didn't process it. And it really scared me because entertainment, as we're talking about, has a very kind of dark side to it. Visibility of your work and putting it out there, it causes really beautiful things to happen. It comforts people, but it also causes very strange behavior around people wanting to have a selfie, people writing you and telling you that this has helped them or their family, and you start feeling like there's a tremendous responsibility. And then there's that pressure. There's also the physical pressure of playing. We played 250 concerts, our first album, in 1 year. So there's the physical. But what no one talks about is the mental aspect of what it's like to be a touring musician. And when he passed away, I related so much to it. And I was also so angry that there wasn't business people to say you're not going on tour anymore until we're sure that you're okay. And we saw this with Amy Winehouse, and we saw this with Michael Jackson. We saw this with so many people that bring a lot of happiness to the world, but unfortunately, you have to pay somewhere. It's either your body or your mind. And if you don't have proper support systems or proper, in my country, like proper health care, and you're slowly getting worse and nobody catches it, you can feel left behind by the healthy world. And you're unhealthy, but you don't want to say it. And I think that when I wrote that song, I was thinking so much about everything that's going on, media fatigue, politics fatigue, and this friend of mine that had died, and I started reflecting on my experience in all of this, and I started getting lower and lower and more sad and more sad. And one thing that's always helped me as a writer is to actually write stories and imagine stories first and foremost. But I started imagining the position that I was in, no more tour bus, but doing this solo, and the way that in this Trump era, how everything's gone, how I felt left behind in this strange space. And I wrote this story about a man who feels that society has left him behind, and that he has failed again, and that he starts thinking. Tony Robbins is a motivational speaker. He's online and he's pretty popular with celebrities and stuff. And I just started having this sort of imagination of this guy, this motivational guy, becoming his imaginary friend, and him constantly talking to him and like about what had happened to him.
Would you like to perform part of it, maybe?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't have to. If you have more questions, feel free. You don't have to abbreviate it.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, man, cool. Yeah, I'll do a couple for you. So I'm gonna have to play very quiet because my neighbor, she's an older woman. I don't want to scare her. Lift it up into the air, and I will notice you in this crowded room and whisper in your ears. Lift your tired head now, darling. Lift it up into the air, and I will float to you in this crowded room. Let's get us out of here. All I'm running out of love now, darling. I really don't care. Ain't got no paper in my pockets now, but I will, I swear. And I know it's time to lose it. So man, I want know. Well, put your lily hand in mine. This is a ballad for patient mind. Lift it up.
Thank you. Thank you. We have 5 questions that we ask all our interview partners. At first, what do you miss the most these days?
I miss everyone feeling okay. I don't give a shit about the bars. I don't give a shit about the shows or the restaurants or the traveling. I feel really bad. I wish that I miss everybody feeling like they're going to be okay. I think people don't know if they're going to be okay, and I'm doing my best with the community around me to try to write people back and call them. I've literally called fans and write them personal notes. And I think if everybody tries to look out for as many people as they can, then we can all we have to be united, and I think I miss everybody being okay.
Okay. Is there anything you learned from this crisis so far?
Yeah. I learned that we all got carried away, you know. I think that we got a little bit crazy. Who cares what the fuck is going on with Prince Harry? Who cares? Really? The Kardashians, who fucking cares? Who cares? You know, we're at a place right now where like you literally could like get ill from going to the grocery store right now in New York City, at least. I think that we have kind of an understanding maybe what it's like to be from Albania or Lithuania or Uganda, seeing a system, a healthcare system that can't necessarily help because it's under so much strain and pressure that it can't help its own citizens. I think in the Western world, we are seeing that, man, maybe we should have empathy for people. Like maybe we should sympathize a little more. All the, you know, the build a wall stuff that was going on in America it's terrible, man. I think we're learning that being in a country in part, you know, that's going through a crisis, we've never before in human history probably all thought about the same thing all the time. Maybe in World War II we were thinking about things all at the same time, or World War I, but maybe not. Some countries just weren't involved, but every country is dealing with this. I've learned that we have to look over our fence at our neighbors and actually worry about them. We never gave a shit about anybody else except ourselves. I live in New York City. New York would be the first fucking people tell you, fucking greatest city in the world, bro. Fucking New York City. Is it? With greatest country in the world, freedom. Are we that free? Are we the greatest? We're leaving people behind. Like I'm learning that we can't live that way, man. It's not right. I'm not a radical liberal freak either. I'm not out smoking weed and fucking swimming with dolphins and on some yoga bullshit. I'm a fucking human being, and it's not just America. There's a lot of countries. It's that we must consider each other more.
Okay. Is there something positive you see about this crisis?
Absolutely. This is a time for you to really think about things. What if you died? What if your parents died? What if your boss dies? Did you accomplish what you were supposed to on Earth? And I'm not talking about work. Donald Trump's a great example of somebody who is, by all intents and purposes, a success story. But that guy doesn't look like a happy human being to me. What's important? Being happy. We have a need, us creatives, us artists. Why do we need to wait for the magazines or somebody to validate who we are? There's an opportunity to push every single day a little further and try to do good. I don't think the music industry is going to come back the same way. It can't. There's no more record sales. The live touring world was kind of the last place where I think could offer a living. That's going to probably be gone for quite a while. And I think it's probably a good thing that we changed a lot about ourselves. So I think what I've learned is that, we kind of knew it. Does Ronaldo really need to make 50 million euro a year? Were we a little bit obsessed with football, or did we get a little crazy? Did we maybe put basketball, college basketball, maybe in front of an education a little bit? To the point where we supported people not even going to school? Did Lionel Messi even fucking get an education? And we're going to listen to them like a moral compass in our society? These are the things I think people should sit and think about. That was then, this is now, and tomorrow is the future. Like, where do we want to go?
So you think the world will be another place after the crisis?
Absolutely. I think, well, firstly, I don't think Americans are going to make fun of Asians for wearing masks anymore. It always did seem a little weird. I admit that. I was just like, man, loosen up. Why? I don't understand. But I understand now. I think the world's going to be much different. I think another thing, you go to Spain or Greece or Italy, Mexico, and elderly people have value. They have a role in their life. They are valued in their family. You go to the parks, you see them walking around, you see them playing bocce ball. I can say that in my country, like, there's some really weird discarding of people. We look at our heroes, actors, but it's a dirty business. Look at Harvey Weinstein. Look at females getting aged out of Hollywood when they're 35. That's not okay. And then you see our elderly and older adults getting aged out of society. Like they end up in homes, in nursing homes by themselves. That's very common. And, there's a great article I read recently that was saying, it wasn't that we didn't care, it's that we were too busy working. And I think that, there's some religions that just don't work and don't use technology on Sundays. And they take one day. And I heard an old Jewish guy talking about this somewhere. And he was just saying, it's like life is kind of like a painting. You're always painting it. You're always painting it. But you must take a moment to step back and look at what you're doing. And look, and for better or for worse, you could just sit back and admire it, have a bit more self-love, self-care. And I think we just got obsessed on many, many levels. And I hope we take a moment in the world that we return to, we're a little bit more improved with ourselves, firstly, and then towards one another globally.
You lived in Berlin for a long time, right?
Yeah,
Several years.
yeah, I did.
So you're familiar with the German angst.
Angst.
You don't know the German angst? That Germans are always afraid of something. So are you afraid? Are you afraid of the crisis?
So German angst is like when Germans have like a fundamental fear about something going to happen. Well, you guys have been through a lot, I have a fear. I have my own personal fears. I fear abandonment. I have my own traumas and stuff that I've conquered in my life, and they'll always be there. I think like speaking about my country, I would really love to see this term hero stop. Michael Jordan is a good basketball player. And I'm sure he represented a lot, but I think we use this word in a very strange way. I think maybe the guy playing bocce ball down at the old man is maybe a hero. Or I have fear sometimes that that this world is, our American kind of things, hero, freedoms, it's all about us, and that I don't like that. And I feel, rather than abandoned, I feel like a separatist. Like I saw a comment on Instagram the other day, and some guy, it was an Australian guy, and he's like, the Americans always setting the benchmark for stupidity. And I can laugh at that, but it hurts a little bit. I feel like shit. We're like the fucking teenagers on the street. We're like the college students. We're like young and stupid, and we're not really taking care of our lawn, and we have a lot of money, and there's music going, and people really aren't thinking of. That's how I sometimes feel about my country, where Germans are like quiet, and like, oh no, riding their bicycle to work, and like, planting their flowers, and they're nice, and we're just fucking young, man.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Nico. I appreciate it. Stay healthy, man.
So do you. Stay safe.
All right, brother. All the best to you.